Aloha, friends. I'm really coming to understand the necessity of spontaneity and creativity. That when we are acting under the influence of the hive mind or the belief systems and the programs, we are no longer spontaneous. We're no longer very creative. And we act a lot like robots. But the more awakened we become, the less this happens.
Save us from this world. This journey, no. Now, drop your steps forward. Only to fall back.
So there's so many things we could talk about with all that is going on within and without. I thought one of the things we would talk about today is what are some of the things to look for, some of the stages, some of the phases associated with awakening. Because a lot of people are coming out of the matrix and could feel completely disoriented and lost, not realizing that there's plenty of people that have gone before you and ahead of you and have already figured quite a bit of stuff out that would just be helpful to think about so that you don't feel like you're alone and or going crazy. So let's discuss. I've come up with eight things, beginning with number one, which is awakening. What happens when we take the journey within and embrace this thing called awakening? And I've got just 8 things of how this unfolds and things that you can sort of look forward to, phases you can look forward to, because this takes time. So let's talk about it. So as you can see here, got my list, and awakening is number 1. After you awaken, the first thing that you're going to pretty much be doing is deprogramming. Deprogramming, which is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to come to realize that you are programmed in numerous ways, and that these programs run from your subconscious mind, and they get into your belief systems, they get into your superstitions. These are all programs. These things are not quote unquote true, although you believe at the time that they are. So you must deprogram from these programs in order to free yourself up and to begin to free up your own state of consciousness, so that you can get into the deeper levels and layers of self to then deal with those levels and layers. And so after deprogramming, Number 3, cleansing and clearing. And this works hand in hand with deprogramming. As you're deprogramming, things are going to come up within you that you're going to need to cleanse and clear. Transmute. This could have to do with anything. It could have to do with your childhood. It could have to do with the past. It could have to do with traumas. It could just have to do with your overall general state of not feeling like your life is right. Like you're not living your best version. You're not living your best self. And so as you cleanse and clear these things that are where we hold on to within, these energetic blockages that we have within, usually associated to chakras, it really it frees you up so that clarity can begin to come in. So let's move to number 4, restructuring / programming. So restructuring and reprogramming. So now that we've torn out, let us say, all the old wiring, all the old beliefs, we've cleared away all the old programs, we can now begin to restructure, reprogram, and co-create a completely different self, different mind state, different world, different reality, different experience. And what a wonderful thing to know that we can do this, because we never even knew we could do this, but now we do. So number 5, so the first 4 things basically are having to do with clearing out the old self, if you will, and coming out of being identified with the external world and the external self, which to me is the ego self. So the ego self lives in the external world, it lives in the matrix, and it has a lot of interaction with NPCs and things of an AI nature. So this all has to do with this programmed matrix world of beliefs that unfolds a reality for you that leaves you feeling like you're not living your best version at all. And so that's what we want to get to. We want to get to our best version, our best self, and our best life, and our best world. So this work must be done. All this work must be done. None of this, you're not ever going to get to level 8 of beingness if you didn't even awaken, if you didn't deprogram, if you didn't cleanse and clear. And then you began to restructure and reprogram. And let's move on to number 5, sustaining heart consciousness. Sustaining heart consciousness. What does that mean? That means you are living from your heart. You are looking at your life, your world, through the filter of your heart, which is a very pure, natural, amazing filter. Whereas up here in this realm, with all this, you were filtering through duality. You were seeing everything through the eyes of the shadow self. And these things still exist. So I'm not saying that duality ceases to exist, or that your shadow self even ceases to exist, or even that your ego ceases to exist. It just isn't the primary you. You don't identify as that anymore, or in or with this whole world. It's a different reality. It's a truly different reality. And this reality is known through sustaining heart consciousness, looking through the filter of your own heart and seeing the world and everything in it through that. Okay, and when you can do that, you will number 6, you will co-create harmony. You will co-create harmony instead of duality. You will begin to harmonize your world and everything in it by no longer separating. So you're no longer transfixed on Republican or Democrat being your identity, or Catholic or Baptist as being your identity. You left all those beliefs behind up here when you were deprogramming, so that you could co-create harmony. Because you can't co-create harmony if you're stuck in belief systems of duality and separation. Okay, and so if anybody has insight on what could be 7, 8, maybe even 9, because I really didn't have 7 or 8. I didn't have anything for 7 or 8. I got to 6 and I was pretty much done with this list. But then I thought, well, number 7 could be teaching, and number 8 could just be being. Like by the time you get to level 8 here, you are just in beingness. Like you've already done all this work. Now you can just be the true self. Be yourself. And so these go hand in hand, and teach. You could be and then teach or whatever. I just kind of put these here to fill in 7 and 8. So if you have any ideas of what could be, number 7 or number 8, leave it in the comments. Because I think we could all, we're all just helping each other figure this whole 500,000 piece puzzle out, one piece at a time, one day at a time, one experience at a time. And it's quite wonderful and quite lovely to be up into these higher stages of this awakening, after the awakening. But this is number 1. This is the first step. You got to start here. And what does this mean? What does this really mean? Because everybody may have a different thought process of what even awakening means. Like some people's idea of what awakening was had to do with politics, or had to do with religion. Just belief systems. It's all belief systems. So awakening has to do with waking up to the realization that maybe all my beliefs and my thoughts and I got programmed. Like maybe everything I was projecting onto everybody else and thinking everybody else had problems and issues and troubles and were effed up mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Maybe I am. Maybe I was. And so that's what happens in awakening. You start to quit pointing at everything else, and you start to look within your own self, and you start to realize, oh my God, all the things I was pointing out in the external world, I'm actually finding within my own self. So I can't be right trying to fix the external world and its people if I have not yet fixed and worked on my own self. So hence all this work comes about, this inner work from awakening and going where? Within. Awakening and going within. And then all this unfoldment happens. And it's quite amazing. So to shift gears a little bit into thoughts. Is every thought that you have your thought? Are your thoughts all your thoughts? Meaning, just because a thought is in your mind, I guess what I'm saying here is by the time you have a thought in your mind and you're thinking about it, I guess we couldn't say it's not your thought at that point, because now it is your thought. But like the thought came from somewhere. And so the thoughts that are coming from various places, really, you can't say they're your thoughts. These thoughts are coming into your mind from places. And so it's very helpful to realize, and this is so subtle that it's probably going to be even missed, even if it's being pointed out and spoken about, because it's just that subtle. But I'm going to try my best to highlight it so that you can realize it and look at it and think about it, of this idea of thoughts. Like, you couldn't have any thought in your mind. If we filtered our own thoughts better, let's say, like if we were more conscious to realize that when a thought's coming, it doesn't have to be let into the mind to start with at all. So it would be a no-brainer then to turn the news off. We could just call it bad news. Turn the bad news off, because news is just bad news. It's either propaganda or deviated or twisted in some way, almost always. All these external things vying for the attention of man, if they were all turned off, then a ton of garbage wouldn't even get into your mind to begin with. And you would never even have these thoughts. So that's one way to prevent a bunch of crappy thoughts from being in your mind. But back to thoughts themselves. Like, can we influence our own thoughts by filtering what we even allow into the mind to start with? Because the thoughts, as you know, they do create. And they're like seeds. And so if you take some poisonous plant seeds thoughts into your mind and they begin to grow, you may not feel the effects of those bad thoughts, negative thoughts, poisonous thoughts, until weeks or months later, potentially, after they've had time to root and grow. But it was all something you allowed, we allow. See, somehow we've been unaware of how self works. This is all about figuring out how your own self works. Once you figure out how you truly work, you truly begin to understand your multidimensionality and the layers of self, and that the fact that it's all intertied together, it's all connected. So your psychology is connected to your spirit frequency coming in from source, enlivening your soul self, which then becomes this filter that I'm talking about, that stands guard at the gate of mind and decides, hey, we no longer take in bad news here. We no longer ingest bad news. So these poisonous seeds never even get in. So of course they're never going to grow, they're never going to root, they're never going to do anything because they never got in. And so I think this clarity, for me anyway, stems from past choices. I turned the TV off years ago. I stopped watching Hollywood and trying, and this brings up another great topic of entertainment. What is it, what part of self desires entertainment? And really examine this within yourself. Look at your own self and ask yourself, what 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 does entertainment mean? Like what am I trying to satiate within myself with this idea of entertainment? And what is it? Yeah, I think if we really got deep into these subjects, we would begin to discover a lot of interesting things, which we're not going to have time to do here, but you can do on your own and in the course of your meditation and introspection time. And get out in nature. It's why does everybody say that? Get out in nature. Get out. Why can't I just? You could do it anywhere. You could do it anywhere. But if you want to have the most profound and the most depth of an experience and get the most out of your meditation and introspection, then Mother Earth herself is just so conducive to doing this. So it just takes you to this place that you're wanting to go much quicker, much easier, much more fluid. But it's not. There's no. There's no dogma about it. Nothing's dogmatic. You can go about these things any way you wish, but the point is to grow the fruit. You will know the fruit by its tree. So if the tree never has any fruit, you have no idea what kind of fruit tree you're looking at or dealing with, because you never see any fruit. So we have to get to the place where we bear fruit, and fruit is just a symbolic, and with what I'm talking about is just symbolic. It's symbolic of so many things. What is fruit? What is fruit? Oh, it's life-giving. It's the part of self that nourishes all life. The fruit of self nourishes all life. And bear with me. I'm going to a deep place here right now, and I'm losing language. So I'm sure if you're with me here, you can feel where I'm coming from and what I'm pointing to, what I'm getting at. By becoming who you really are, by becoming the co-creators that we truly are, we become the fruit. We become the symbol of the thing that it's the pinnacle of the tree's movement, if you will. The fruit. It's the I can't say it better than that, I don't think. It's the pinnacle moment for the tree to bear that wonderful, amazing crop of fruit. And for the self, that means becoming the full ripened version of yourself. You're no longer the green, bitter fruit. You're no longer the bud that began after the flower, and you're no longer the flower only. See, you're all these things because you had to become the fruit. You had to be the bud. You had to be the green fruit. You had to be the flower at that point in time. And I would say, to me, the being the flower is when you awakened. That's when your flower opened. See, there's the flower bud, and then there's the fruit bud, if you will, itself that comes from the flower. So in other words, had you not awakened, you never would have got pollinated. You never would have began to become yourself, which is the fruit which shows the rest of the universe exactly what you are. And that which you are is what sustains the rest of the world. It is the fruit, the food, the sustenance, the nourishment. And in the case of the plant, it took the sun's rays, and mother's grounding dirt energy, and even rotted compost. All these forces come together to create you. So be your best version, my friend. You have wings. You can fly. And so go ahead. Fly. Until next time, hold us.